English, we're taught not to use double negatives. But if you learn French, they'll tell you to use both ne and pas. What's up with that? In this video, we're going to talk about Jespersen's cycle. It's a pattern in how negation develops in different languages, named after Otto Jespersen, who first described it in 1917. We'll use French as an example, because the cycle is really well documented there. If you've ever been taught French, you'll have been taught that there are two parts to negation. The ne that goes before the verb, and the pas that goes after. Je ne mange pas, I don't eat. Elle ne voit pas, she doesn't see. On n'avait pas, one doesn't have. But, pas. That's the same pas as in faux pas or pas de deux. That means step. What's that doing there? We're gonna have to look at Old French to find out. Back then, you only needed a ne to form the negative. Je ne mange, elle ne voit, on n'avait. This is stage 1 of the cycle, a single negative marker. But sometimes ne wasn't strong enough on its own. Plus, it was unstressed, so it could get missed or blurred with other words. On n'avait sounds a lot like on n'avait. If you wanted to emphasise or clarify the negative, you could add a word after the verb. Je ne mange mieux, I don't eat a crumb. Tu ne sais rien, you don't know a thing. Elle ne marche pas, she doesn't walk a step. There was a period where these all matched up semantically, but by the 12th century you could use them all interchangeably. Eventually, pas was grammaticalised as the default negative marker. It was used for pretty much every verb, and people stopped noticing it meant step. This is stage 2, two negative markers. In modern colloquial French though, the ne feels kind of pointless. It's rarely stressed and it gets contracted a lot, and you don't really need it when you've got pas, so why bother saying it? By at least the 1900s, French speakers were missing out the ne entirely. You're now more likely to hear je mange pas than je ne mange pas. And that's stage 3, cycle complete. We get one negative marker, then a new one gets added, and then the original falls out of use. And then potentially everyone gets used to the new one, etc. Jespersen's cycle isn't universal, but it is widespread and attested in entirely unrelated languages. Most Athabascan languages have gone through the cycle, so have Northern Germanic ones. Many North African and Levantine dialects of Arabic are at stage 2, with Palestinian Arabic progressing to stage 3. In Brazilian Portuguese, the original marker got doubled, so there can be one before the verb and one after. If stage 3 occurs here, it might just look like the marker teleported. Welsh is at stage 3, and its original negative marker has disappeared in all but the most formal writing. But sometimes that marker caused a mutation at the start of the following verb, and this survives in some places, even when the marker's been replaced. Italian mostly just uses one negative marker, but some northwestern dialects have started emphasising negatives with mica, meaning crumb, as in I didn't eat a crumb, and some of these have entered stage 3 by only using mica. English has gone through Jespersen's cycle too. Like French, we used to put ne before our verbs. Then we started following the verb with nout, which came from the Old English word for nothing, and then the initial ne disappeared. I ne see became I ne see nout, which became I see not. And then that became I don't see, but that's a different story. Wait, how come stage 2 English used the equivalent of I don't see nothing, while stage 2 French said I don't see a thing? That's because of negative concord. Basically, if negatives stack. In languages with negative concord, negatives reinforce each other. Some dialects of English have negative concord. That's where you might hear sentences like I never saw nobody, or she ain't afraid of nothing. Some languages have strict negative concord, where indefinite pronouns have to agree in negativeness. It's like you flip a switch to put the whole sentence in negative mode. In Czech, for example, you'd say nobody doesn't call never, instead of nobody ever calls. Because the sentence is negative, why shouldn't the words in it be? But in languages without negative concord, negatives cancel each other out. In these languages, you flip the negativeness switch every time you see a negative, rather than just the first. Two negatives make a positive, and all that. I'm not going to go too much into why, because this is deeper linguistics than I fully understand, but what's important here is that English used to have negative concord, so when we needed an intensifier for a negative, of course we'd pick another negative, therefore eine sehen out. And Jespersen's cycle might have helped us lose negative concord. When we entered stage 3, using only one negative marker, double negatives were no longer built into the language. The educated upper class stopped using them, influenced by Latin, mathematical logic, and classism. Double negatives became stigmatised as a mark of low intelligence, and while negative concord does still exist in many dialects of English, it's not considered standard anymore. The opposite kinda happened in French. You might have noticed something weird earlier. Tu ne sais rien. I translated that as you don't know a thing, but that's wrong, right? Rien means nothing, not thing. Well, now it does, but the word itself got flipped. Rien is actually from the Latin rem, meaning thing, but in Middle French it had been mostly replaced by chose. Rien was mostly used in constructions like ne rien. By this point, French speakers knew that when they said ne pas, the pas was the important bit, the part that made it negative. They knew that ne rien meant something to do with nothing, and they knew that the ne didn't really matter, so rien must mean nothing. Or to put it more linguistically, when pas was reanalysed as a negative marker, the ne pas construction was reanalysed as having negative concord, and so ne rien was reanalysed too in analogy. Same with person, in sentences like je ne vois personne. Person comes from person, but usually means nobody. In Spanish there's nada and nadie, which now mean nothing and nobody, but both come from the Latin root nata, meaning born. It turned negative because of Jespersen's cycle. People kept saying not a thing born to emphasise their negatives, but also maybe because it starts with N, so it just sounds negative. Languages can even influence each other. Biblical Hebrew doesn't have negative concord, but when it was revived in the 19th century, a lot of its speakers were more familiar with Yiddish, Polish and Russian, which do. So the new Hebrew speakers reanalysed a bunch of words and flipped their meaning to negative. Negation is super complex. Many linguists disagree on how exactly Jespersen's cycle works. Hopefully this has been a decent introduction to the topic. I've linked all my sources in the description if you want to get deeper into the linguistics. But here's what you need to know. No means no. Sometimes two no's mean no, sometimes two no's mean yes. And sometimes a step means no, a crumb means no, and a person means nobody. Ain't nothing clearer than that.